warm-up song for you. We're going to send our love over the mountains. Sing along if you're ready. I send my love
over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my joy over the mountains. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy over the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my power over the mountains. I send my power over the sea. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the mountains. Send my peace over the sea. I send my peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me.
And it returns.
And it returns to me.
Good morning and welcome to Unity of Walnut Creek. Time to start our service officially. And today we're in part 2 of celebrating and exploring the divine feminine. So we're going to sing a song about the gifts of the goddess. As soon as we get that going, here we go. Gonna get earthy, get goddessy. So if you'll rise in body or spirit and join us in singing Gifts of the Goddess. All right, here we go. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace? Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive? Love,
Love,
are you ready?
are you ready?
Joy,
Joy,
are you ready?
Are you ready?
Peace,
peace,
are you ready?
Are you
Together,
ready?
are you ready to receive? Here we go. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace? Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive. Compassion,
compassion,
I am ready.
I am ready.
Forgiveness,
Forgiveness,
I am ready.
I am ready.
Laughter,
laughter,
I am ready.
I am ready.
I am ready to receive. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace? Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive. Passion,
passion,
I am ready.
I am ready.
Success,
success,
I am ready.
I am ready.
Abundance,
abundance,
I am ready.
I am ready.
I am ready to receive. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, I am ready to One more time. These are the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess, are you ready to receive all the gifts of the goddess, love, joy, and peace. Gifts of the goddess I am ready to receive. I am ready to receive. One more time. I am ready to receive. Beautiful.
My name is Mike McGarvey. I'm welcome to Unity of Walnut Creek, and it's wonderful to be feeling all the love from you all. Please join me by turning to the camera, excuse me, turning to the camera and waving hello to our friends at home. Your presence adds a lot to our spiritual community, and we appreciate you. So I invite you to turn your cell phone to silence as we enjoy this sacred service together. Our minister, Reverend Kristen Powell, is our speaker this morning. And thank you to Lisa, Keith, Annie for leading us in song, and to our band, Dave, Dusty, and Dan. And our featured performers this morning are the Traveling Voice and the Sounds of Joy. So thank you all for sharing your voices with us. So unity is a positive path for spiritual living. At Unity of Walnut Creek, our mission is, in loving community, we empower spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. And I invite you to join me in affirming our statement of faith. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. If you're here with us for the first time and are comfortable doing so, we invite you to raise your hand, and we'll bring you a welcome packet. Okay. There's also a connection card in your packet. Please take it to our bookstore to receive a gift. And if you'd rather, you can pick up a packet at the welcome table and visit the bookstore for your gift. Okay. Connection cards are available for everyone in the seat pockets in front of you. With this card, you may submit a prayer request, and our prayer chaplains will pray with you throughout the week. You may also share feedback with us on these cards. If you request information, the staff will respond to you during office hours. The ushers will receive your card with the offering. Now please take a moment to greet the people immediately around you.
choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing, I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing love today. What are you choosing? I'm choosing love today. I am walking the road of heaven right now,
choose compassion today. I am walking the road
of heaven right now, singing, I choose compassion today. I'm choosing heaven today. What are you choosing?
I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road
of heaven right now, singing, I choose compassion today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing, I'm choosing heaven today. All right. Welcome back.
Hello. My name is CL. Hi. All month we've been steeped in the divine feminine. And on May 30th, the 2020 Spiritual Insight Committee is presenting a program that will integrate the teachings. Through words, sound, and music, you will feel safe to join the divine masculine and divine feminine in partnership and return to your original essence. And your heart will be touched by Charlie Thwaite's joyful and thought-provoking music and message when he joins us in 2 weeks. Charlie will be with us on Sunday morning, plus an afternoon concert at 2 o'clock. Woo! Charlie provides a fun and connecting concert with opportunities to sing along. Our summer series of classes will start the week of June 4th. We'll start the week with spiritual sign language and connecting to the divine soul collage, and end the week with Kundalini dance meditation. These classes are a lighthearted way to deepen our spiritual connections and a great way to kick off summer. So please take a close look at today's bulletin for details on these and other opportunities.
So we invite you now to prepare for a time of meditation as CL continues by reading our community prayer followed by some song and guided meditation.
Our reading today is an adapted quote by author Sue Monk Kidd. Divine feminine imagery opens up the notion that the earth is the body of the divine. And when that happens, the divine cannot be contained solely in a book, church, dogma, liturgy, theological system, or transcendent spirituality. The earth is no longer a mere backdrop until we get to heaven, something secondary and expendable, and neither is the feminine. Matter becomes inspirited. It breathes divinity. Earth comes alive and sacred, and we find ourselves alive in the midst of her and forever altered.
Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam Bargo Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam Bargo Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam Bargo Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat Saviturvarenyam Bargo Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat
And the many voices of the divine continue to reverberate in our hearts, in our beings. We let that vibration settle. As we open to the expansive breath of the divine feminine, the whole spirit of love, the Holy Spirit, as it moves in and through us with every breath. We become like a sieve open. And that breath of life moves through us without boundary, dissolving the boundaries of body. As the heart expands, and the many voices of spirit are heard again, echoing through this boundaryless heart. We We enter the silence and the one heart. And so it is.
The way the moon bends down to light the sea and catches hold of mountains strong, they stand beside me, and all that I am they have written in my soul. I've made a promise to never lose sight of the dream that leads me home. And this much I know: time like a river sends me away, but here on these shores my heart remains. From these shores I came. The tender wind that reaches through the years and sings me on through joy and pain. It breathes within me, and all that I am they have written in my soul. I made a promise to never lose sight of the dream that leads me home. and this much I know, and this much I know.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you, Cozy. And the sounds of joy. Is it that the times are getting more accelerated, or is it that we are getting more sensitive? Both. I think both, yes. Yeah, that was a conclusion I came to just a moment ago, too. Yeah, wow. You know, I was just kind of looking at different things online, surfing the web, I guess is what we call that. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about what was going on with the volcanic eruption in Hawaii, and I came across USA Today, and then ABC picked up the same headline, Pele, the Hawaiian goddess. You know, it wasn't a historical piece, it was a present-day piece. And it was bringing forth that Hawaiian spirituality, you know, that this volcanic eruption is the goddess of fire. And that goddess of fire, since 1983, that volcano actually has been active, and since that time, 70 acres of new earth have been created. I mean, lava makes the most, you know, it's new earth, it's fertile soil. First time it's been here on earth, you know. It gives a new meaning to Eckhart Tolle's The New Earth, doesn't it? Yes, we are creating a new earth, a new way of being, a new consciousness. At the same time, new earth is being created. Fresh earth, a whole new way of being where ocean and land are coming together. It's pretty profound, isn't it? And so to think about that being headlines of our modern day society, that there are goddesses in the headlines of our major media outlets, is quite interesting, if nothing else. But I want to go further and say it's quite powerful. In this series that we're doing on the divine feminine, it's really about the walk of the holistic nature of us as both sacred in our masculinity and our divinity, those energies being in balance with one another. We talk about the divine feminine more because it has been the hidden power. It has been secreted away. And these times, it's awakening. You know, in the South American culture, there is an old prophecy of the condor and the eagle. And the condor people are this more kind of feminine energy people, they say, the intuitives, the nurturers, the heartfelt energies of the world. And that the eagle people are the intellectuals and the more mind-focused, the industrialized, the technologically innovative folks, right? And that they say that in the way the prophecy goes, that in the 1490s, that there would be, starting in 1490, there'd be a 500-year period where the eagle people would dominate and almost eliminate the condor people. But that in 1990, the prophecy switched, and there would come a time now of harmony where the condor and the eagle fly together. Isn't that beautiful? So from 1983 on, this volcano has been active. From 1990 on, and I met a shaman in Peru, and he just said there will come a day when the condor and the eagle fly together. And I said, oh, kind of like the lion and the lamb laying down together, you know. But I didn't really know the full prophecy until later, and find it really fascinating that it is a marker of these times. And so what does it mean to us? Why is it important to us that we bring forth this energy? Well, we can see how things are working, right? And, you know, the old saying, how's that working for you? So, you know, we can continue in the way that we understand power today, and maybe we will continue and maybe we won't continue actually as a species in that way because of the imbalance. So some archaeologists say that it was around the Bronze Age that there were weaponry was beginning to really come into play for us. It was really established. And it was also a time when there was, around that time, there was a switch from, in many cultures, a kind of she-god or a matriarchy, where, you know, all these little, you've probably seen them before, the fertility goddesses and all these figures and idols were found that pointed many of these archaeologists to the conclusion that there was a time when God was she to many of us in many places upon the earth, and that a switch came around that time. And so, you know, we could surmise that weaponry was one of the key switches, and that then suddenly weaponry became kind of analogous with the masculine. And so there was an understanding of power now as weaponry and as masculine, which of course does no service to men or women, because it brings out that side of us that brings forth this false sense of masculine power. And then it leaves, you know, women trying to fall in line with that and men trying to fall in line with that and hearts breaking all along the way, right? So there is a understanding that we can come to now, and now in our modern society, it's not just weaponry, but it's money and time. These are the tools that we use that are so out of balance, right? How many of you ever felt enslaved to time or to the clock time and the calendar time? There's not enough, right? This seems to be the mantra of our society. We got to get on the wheel and we got to move faster and we've got to do more and more and more and more. And there's a point when the image I always have is Mother Mary holding her crucified son, and it's like, enough, you know. There's a time when we just say, enough. We can't go on like this anymore. And there is an elixir of power available to us, an elixir meaning remedy. There is a remedy available to us that will allow us to really grab a hold of the true power that is ours, the divine power, the wholeness that is ours. We know that as spiritual beings, but we walk out the doors of the sanctuary, we get up from our cushions or our altars, and we go out into the world, and it's like, it's hard, isn't it? Sometimes to hold that space, to know that truth, to be in that place of the sourced love of the divine, the sourced understanding of the divine. And so what tools can help us? Part of it is awareness. Part of it is recognizing that every time we say, I don't have enough time or I don't have enough money, we give over to that kind of domineering power where those who would like to hold that kind of power or who seem to hold that kind of power exactly where they want us, right? And so there is this sense then we get the us and they going, this dynamic going of otherness, and it's all can be dissolved. It all can be resolved as we make different choices out of the awareness of the truth of who we are. People of abundance, people of God, people of a spirit that is ever present, flowing love. And ones who understand that the heart of the heart is what matters, you know? That we have the innate wisdom within us, the intuition within us that understands how to care for one another, how to reach out for support, how to connect with one another. These are all those sort of relational pieces that we've come to call the divine feminine aspect, and they're in all of us, male and female alike. Anybody seen the movie Black Panther or Wonder Woman? Yeah, so the new Marvel, you know, some of the new releases, they're wonderful for some of us who haven't gotten to be in that heroine role, or people of color that have gotten to be the heroines and the heroes. And yet at the same time, it's that wonderful part set to that same old story, right? We got to fight, 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 fight. That's how we get power. We dominate, we kill. You know, this is what power is about. And we all know, right? That's not power, that's fear. You know, that's just a whole lot of fear. And so it is a moving instead to that place where, you know, one of the things I really loved about Black Panther was there was this meshing of the innovation, the incredible genius that we have of technological innovation, and it was brought to a higher level. And it was beautiful. It was set in this, you know, beautiful earthy context. So there was nature, and there was relational community connecting power of the whole. And then there was, you know, the technological, it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in other words. We don't just say, oh, okay, well, let's unearth all of the gifts of the masculine and bring in all of the feminine. No, then we'll just be out of balance the other way, you know. It's about finding the holistic aspect of this, finding putting it all together. So in Black Panther, they had that kind of innovative technology woven into the connection of the community. In my opinion, where they went wrong in these, but it's a part of our culture, is just that it's all about the power over paradigm and the violence, right? In order to win, we have to, you know, kick each other. So, yeah, I had to censor myself there for a minute. So there is studies done at UCLA in 2000. Actually, Shelley Taylor headed up a group, and what they found it was interesting because up until 1995, a lot of studies on health and anthropological kinds of how we interact with people, societal kinds of studies were always done on men, and so there were some things, of course, you know, key to women's biology that weren't being picked up. And so in 1995, there was a federal mandate that more of the studies needed to include women. And so, you know, and some of these women have now become the researchers too. So this woman, Shelley Taylor, and her colleagues started to wonder about the age-old idea that every time we're in a stressful situation, there's only two choices, fight or flight. Anybody live under that paradigm, right? So, you know, that's deep in our, you know, that's been taught to us. And so it's been kind of consumed in our DNA, and we've passed it on again and again. And so it becomes this idea that there's two ideas. We either avoid and get the heck out, or we stand strong and we fight, you know, and that this is it. These are the only choices that we have. And Shelley Taylor noticed that she and her colleagues were doing something different quite naturally. When they felt stressed, she noticed that they would find each other around the water cooler or the coffee pot or the teapot. She said, what is this? We're not fleeing. We're not fighting. And so as she began to study more and more humans and more animal groups, she noticed there was another, and her colleagues noticed that there was another kind of approach to stress, and it is called tend and befriend. And when we tend and befriend, we tend to our children. We tend to those who are not in those hierarchical power structures, at the bottom of those hierarchical power structures that have been institutionalized. So we tend to those who need some assistance, and we befriend one another in a kind of collaborative way, in community and working together. And so it's interesting to think for yourself for a moment about what is your kind of automatic way that you go in stress moments. I remember a friend of mine, Ben, who used to run the Buddhist Center at Unity Temple on the Plaza in Kansas City. We were chatting one day, and he said, you know, when I am stressed, I go into cave mode, you know, complete withdrawal. And he said, when my wife is stressed, she circles the wagons. And I thought, you know, I do a little bit of both, but I could really relate to the cave thing. I don't know about you at the time anyway. And so a lot of us, you know, we can begin to think, well, that tend and befriend, it just hasn't been taught to us, right? It hasn't been in our conscious awareness. Yet when we hear it, we go, oh yeah, I sometimes do that. You know, certainly the mama bears among us get the tend to the children kind of thing. And those mama bears are, again, papa bears too, because we all kind of have that protect the children kind of instinct in us, don't we? We all have that motherly, fatherly kind of instinct in us that wants to protect. So that tend and befriend is a big part of what comes forth then in how we relate with things going on in the world. The two choices are not just fight and flee, but they are also now 4 choices, tend and befriend. And I would add always our 5th and hopefully first choice is within, right? Because when we go within, when we go into that well within us, we get resourced with the living water. I love that story where Jesus and the Samaritan woman are hanging out at the well at midday, you know, so it's clear in the scripture that it's at noon, and it's at noon because it's in the bright light of day that Jesus is speaking to a woman, no less, and a Jew to a Samaritan, which was not, you know, the Samaritans were considered lower than the Jews. And so, you know, breaking all boundaries, as he always did, he's sitting with her, and they're having a theological conversation. They're talking about where the Samaritans worship God and where the Jews worship God, and how there will come a day when it's not about on the mountain or in the temple, but it'll be everywhere, present within, that we carry the Spirit with us. And here we are in this day, recognizing that the living water he was sharing with her, it was more than a dip into the well for literal water, but a dip into the well of Spirit for the living water. And so that is that first choice that we go to, is that renewal. But that too doesn't have to be done alone, right? That too can be part of our communal coming together and sharing in prayer, which we obviously do on Sundays. And hopefully other times too. In Ode magazine, Lisa Witter and Lisa Chen wrote together this article, and in it they said that if the reigning ethos of history is survival of the fittest, that the temperature of today's planet requires survival of the connected. And we've talked about that, haven't we, about how one of the fallouts of this really lopsided power structure that we live under is loneliness, right? That there are a lot of people in our world that are really dealing with a serious experience of loneliness. And amongst all these people, what, 4 billion or so of us that are circulating on the planet, or there's more than that, aren't there? Anyway, there's a lot of us. 7 billion, that's right, thank you. Or 6 or something. Anyway, a lot of us. And animals, and, you know, a lot of life on this planet, that amongst all of that, that we can get into these places of feeling so isolated. Sue Monk Kidd said in the book she wrote, The Secret Life of Bees, she said that in the bee colony, it's so much about social companionship and physical contact that if you isolate a honeybee from her colony, from her sisters, she'll die. The worker bees are all the female bees, and they'll die without that because they work together for the higher good. There's been a lot of study around bees and how bees form and organize and how they create together and how they communicate with one another. And now people are writing books such as Survival of the Hive, the 7 Leadership Lessons from Beehives by Deborah Mackin and Matthew Harrington, that's used in MBA programs and in businesses. So people are starting to look at these honeybees and how they create together and how they survive and band together and apply it to business and to organizations. I mean, hallelujah, right? We're finding some really, they call this biomimicry, when we see things in nature and we make it so. You know, we watch how a bird is structured and we now know how to fly an airplane. You know, we watch how a bee colonizes and creates and makes the hive and communicates and collaborates, and we say, whoa, we could do more of that. It's a very kind of feminine, divine feminine kind of way of being that is being called for. So in the colonies, one of the things that's key for bees is the survival of the hive. So above all individual bee interests, is the survival of the whole colony. They're all committed to the greater good, in other words. So it's one of those key aspects as we shift the power paradigm, is to understand that we are working toward the universal greater good. And that it's not about our selfish interests over, but always looking at the greater good. That raises consciousness automatically, doesn't it? When we start to think about the greater good of the planet, the greater good of the children, the greater good of all people, you know, and we begin to share our power, what we also then share is our genius, because it unlocks the genius of those voices that have been silenced. I mean, that's the key, is that we want to open to all of us getting to share the power of our voice. You know, when we say that common saying in mainstream culture now, speak truth to power, it's a much bigger thing when you think of it in the context of spirituality, because it's speaking the truth of our being, the truth of our knowingness, the truth of the divine, into the true power that we're talking about manifesting in the world. It's a much more powerful statement than is often used as sort of makes us often feel like, oh, it's exhausting, right? You know, out in the world sort of trying to resist, fight, or just go in our caves and flee and turn everything off, right? And to realize, oh no, we could actually be drawing upon the power of the whole group, of the whole hive, of the whole earth. So the bees have this really amazing way that they communicate with one another. When they find nectar of a flower, for example, one worker bee will go out and it'll find a new patch of flowers or a new flower. It will come back to the hive, and in order to communicate with the rest of the bees, it will do what's known as the waggle dance. Have you ever seen the waggle dance? Some of you have. Let's take a look.
Her abdomen. Now that she's got their attention, she begins her dance, using a code of movements that tell her fellow workers where her discovery lies. The duration of her waggle indicates the distance to the nectar source. The longer the waggle, the further the flower. And the angle at which she dances across the comb tells them the direction to the flower in relation to the sun. Her instructions are remarkably accurate and can pinpoint the location of a nectar source over 6 kilometers away. Some of her fellow workers set off immediately to find it. In one short season, the colony's workers will visit up to 500 million flowers and will make around 90 kilograms of honey. That is sufficient to sustain the whole colony through the coming winter when there is no nectar to be had.
Michael. So what is your waggle dance? I mean, it's ingenious communication, isn't it? And you saw how interested all the other bees were. It was like, you know, completely like walking with, dancing around with her to get it down, you know, to get it incorporated into the body. And so for us, we can learn a lot from that, of that kind of clear and honest and true communication that is always focused on the good of the whole, the greater good, the universal love. I mean, you know, after I read that article on Pele, the Hawaiian goddess, and what was going on with the volcano in Hawaii, I was scrolling down, and the very next article on Friday was the Texas shooting. And it's just, you know, enough, right? It's the piata again. It's enough, it's enough, it's enough, right? Enough already. And so how do we speak that truth and make that truth come true? It is through finding the ways that we waggle together, that we communicate the truth with one another. You know, if the truth hasn't been given to us on so-called higher planes, it's really a gift to recognize that the power lies within each person and each of us in connection with one another. And that the power isn't about money. It isn't about weapons. It isn't about time. It isn't about the material world. It isn't about stuff. The power is the power of the divine that is so accessible to us with every breath, with every heartbeat, with every movement, with every, spoken word. We have the choice to keep aligning with that. Keep aligning with that compassion, that nurturance, that care for one another. And what greater sacred purpose is there than to love one another, and to love ourselves by doing so? So the bees really give us that. In fact, the bees, so you may be thinking, well, there is a queen bee in the hive, right? So there is some kind of seeming hierarchy. And while the queen bee has her role, and the worker bees have their roles, and the drones have their roles, the queen bee is not the sole decision maker. So when the bees decide that they want to, they need to move their hive somewhere, or they want to start a new hive, the way that works is the queen bee goes out with some of the worker bees, and they fly to a place until they find a place that they feel like this would be a good place for our hive. And then they fly back to their original space where the rest of the bees are, and another waggle dance is performed. And the other bees fly to the place that they've been directed to, check it out, see what they think of the new home idea. They come back, and if they do the exact same waggle dance, all the bees know we're good to make the move. It's incredible, right? So if only we could pay a little more attention to how nature shows us the natural rhythms of how we were designed to be at our best. Our most innovative, our most genius, our most clear in our communication, our kindest selves, our most caring selves, our most compassionate selves, our most loving selves can be seen in these kinds of cooperative communities. If we don't get it, or we can't really understand it, or we don't want to reach to the ways of our indigenous ancestors, then we can at least do the biomimicry of nature and see, wow, maybe there is something here after all. Shared decision-making, caring about the whole, the greater good, and clear communication, honest communication. Speaking truth to power means speaking truth. It means truth and honesty means getting clear and honest with ourselves. And that's all a part of how we restore the kind of power shift we're talking about in the world. One other thing about the ingeniousness of these bees is, you've probably seen the honeycomb and how perfectly that is created. And it's a hexagon. It's a hexagonal shape, much like our hexagon right here. And the hexagonal shape is one that actually numerologically means things like communication and interfacing and balance and union and unity and truth and harmony and equality. So all of that is symbolized by the hexagonal shape, which wastes nothing. I mean, it's made into a hexagon so there aren't any gaps, so that the honey is secure in all those spaces. And so we, of course, have this ingenuity. We, of course, have this innovative nature. We know this from all the amazing things that are created in the world, that are invented in the world. And we have in us, and need to call forth in us, the collaborative, cooperative, the tending and befriending, that kind of energy as well. When we mesh those two, we truly do have a match made in heaven, within us and without. So, there's been stories before. I guess it's possible they're urban legends, but I also think it's also quite possible that they've happened. Where, in one case I remember hearing about a woman in Chicago where somebody had broken into her home and was going to commit violence against her. And she looked into this intruder's eyes and said, "I forgive you." And everything stopped. And he actually had tea with her at her kitchen table. And they talked about him and what was going wrong for him in his life. So, and what is that power? What is that, really grounded power that would allow somebody to come from that place, obviously fully grounded in their divinity, but also it is that kind of power, that feminine power that doesn't fight against the darkness, but looks at it. Intimacy, into me see. You know, into me see. Be not, it's courage, it's a different kind of courage. It's not the courage to fight with brawn and weaponry, but it's the courage to fight with the essence of who we are, that can see from the heart that there is pain here, and that can be in that place of such power and such courage that can say, I will open to it instead of fleeing. I will open to it instead of fighting. I will tend the wound and even befriend the aggressor so that it can melt away. So it's a brave new world, isn't it, when we think of those kinds of acts that we are capable of, that have happened over and over again in our society. Almost 100 years ago, the co-founders of Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, put out a series of statements of faith, things that they really believed in, to try to define this movement as really, what are we founded in, and what are we founded upon, and what are we, and you know, if the Fillmores said it back in the day, that sort of principle-based kind of declaration of affirmation, nobody questioned it. You know, after it was spoken. It was spoken from that place of real strength and power, you know, real bringing forth the power through the spoken word. And so Charles and Fillmore wrote this: I believe that the Holy Mother, the divine feminine, is now being restored to her righteous place in the world, and that she will reign equal with Jehovah in the heavens and the earth. And so it has come, right? Over 100 years ago, that was written. Over 2,000 years ago, we had Jesus demonstrating this kind of equality, this kind of need for balance and wholeness. He likened himself to a mother hen who wants to gather up Jerusalem under his wings. He likened, you know, things to, some of the scriptures liken the eagle's nest and the nesting. There was a lot of imagery of mothering, of that kind of energy of nurturance. So it's not new, but it's needed. And this feels to me like more and more urgently needed, and more accessible, because more and more of us are waking up to it and recognizing what a healing balm that is for men to be able to let go of all that energy that has to be so strong and protective in that physical way. And what a healing balm for women to be able to access and actually have recognized that power that we've always had access to. And what a healing balm for us as men and as women, or however we identify in the gender spectrum, to bring forth the energies, both energies that are equally accessible to us now and want to be in equal partnership like the yin-yang. We can do this. We are doing this. And as we just remind ourselves over and over again of how, just even in the little ways, the next time you say, I don't have enough time, take a pause. The next time you're scrolling through or surfing the web and you come upon that kind of story like I did when I came to the Texas shooting, and I went, ah, and felt that grief, and then I moved on to something else, you know? Stay with it. Stay with it, because it is in the power of that feeling nature that we will burst through the true power that can balance, rebirth, make a new earth. Let's do that together. Let's embody this divine feminine power together, this elixir that can remedy our world and remedy our relationships and remedy our lives. And let's affirm that truth together. Together, I am a wellspring of divine feminine power. So it is. Bless you.
I send my power over the mountains. I send my power over the sea. Sing it if you want. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me, and it returns to me, and it returns to me.
So we have prayer chaplains available to pray with you today. So if you have something on your heart that feels maybe heavy or conflictual or in some way that you'd like a little support, we encourage you. Or if you have something joyful and celebratory. And so would our prayer chaplains please stand who are available today so you can find them easily after the service. Yeah, see? You know, and this is another thing about our prayer chaplains that I just so greatly appreciate, that, and you may not know this, but as you see them, you kind of have a visual of this. That is anchored energy for you. So on Sunday mornings, you get this sort of anchored, prayerful energy that is here for you. And we want to encourage you to try out praying with a prayer chaplain. This has been in our 6-week prayer class homework every week for the students in the class to come and pray with a prayer chaplain. And know that they hold whatever you share in confidence, and they're simply there to pray with you. So thank you for your service, prayer chaplains, and we encourage you to connect with them. Yeah, we can give them a round of applause. I hear that desire. And so we turn now to this time of prosperity, and I remind you of those scarcity myths that Lynn Twist taught us, that, you know, we've been living under the old paradigm that says that there's not enough and that more is better, and that's just the way it is, you know. And those are all myths that we can break open with the new power shift into our wholeness and our completeness, because it is one of abundance. And so as we move into our offertory time, let's remember that truth, that we are in that law of circulation, of giving and receiving. And what are we giving and receiving? Love, energy. It's not paper stuff or coins or plastic, but that's just symbolic of moving energy. So thank you, God, for the opportunity this morning to move energy. Let's know that. And really, as we speak hold our tithes and our offerings in our hand, let's speak our blessing as if it's new for the first time. So to bring our attention, our energy truly to what we're saying and what we are infusing our gifts with. So I invite you to do that with me together. Together. Divine love, one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful. I believe you. That was powerful right there.
God's intentional, never failing. I know that all things are working for my good, yeah. 'Cause God's intentional, never failing. I know that all things are working for my good, yeah. 'Cause God's intentional, and God's never failing, never failing. I know that all things are working for my good, yeah. 'Cause God's intentional, never failing. All things are working for my good. All things things are working for my good.
All 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 things are working for my good.
I don't have to worry 'cause it's working for me. It's working for me, and I believe it's working for me. I know that I don't have to worry 'cause it's working for me. It's working for me.
It's working for me.
It's working for me.
It's working for me.
It's working for me. I know that I don't have to worry 'cause it's working for me. It's working for me, and I believe it's working for me. I know that I don't have to worry 'cause
it's working for me.
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 So I want the traveling voice and the sounds of joy to know you're really working for us. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's celebrate our prosperity. Thank you, Spirit, for all that we are, for just this even hour that we come together to remind each other that we are powerful beyond measure, that our abundance is a wellspring of wholeness, and together we bless this offertory, knowing that we bless ourselves and our lives and our relationships and the greater good and the very world that we stand upon together. We give thanks for the ever-increasing, unceasing flow of absolute good in our lives now. So it is.
Marching in the light of God. We are 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 marching. We are marching. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching. We are marching. We are marching in the light of God.
We're blessing our big kids who are at Rally this weekend. That's why we've got a smaller group, and I know they're having a fantastic time. Is there anything you want to share with us, Lonnie and crew, about what you did this? Oh, here comes the microphone. Thank you, Lisa.
Well, we were starting a nice discussion about the masculine and feminine energies, and then we had to come in, but but we were glad to do that. We were talking about the volcano in Hawaii and how it's after Pele, the goddess of fire. And one of the insights that we had is that the eruptions that come out of the volcano are like that masculine, eruptive, kind of strong energy. Yeah. And yet we found out with the lava that it was creating land, like you had mentioned in the service. And so we were talking about how there's that balance of energy, which they were getting, they were understanding.
Nice. So nice to know we're all on the same page, isn't it? Well, let's bless our teachers and youth and children together. Children, youth, and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine light within you. We invite you to take your neighbor's hand if you wish. You don't need to grab hands, but if you'd like to. And we'll close out with our prayer of protection and our peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God ever present, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. You are the light and the love and the peace on earth right now. So let your light shine and have fun.